What kind of book is Revelation? Let's talk for a moment about the literary genre of the book. Revelation is a combination of three major types of literature. First of all, it is a letter. The book opens and closes like a letter. You will notice that included within this letter, you have 7 letters, and I prefer to call these 7 messages so that you can continue to see the whole book as a letter with 7 messages to churches. As we talked about when reading New Testament letters, when you interpret a letter, you need to know the situation or occasion that calls for the letter. You have to interpret Revelation in light of these 7 churches. And as you see a map of these churches, you will notice that it might be as a person would travel among the churches. There are other churches in that area, but these 7 are mentioned because they're major churches, and also it would be churches that people would travel to. So we have to take into account what is going on with these churches, because it's the situation among the churches that helps us understand the entire book. Revelation is also described as a prophecy. It calls itself a prophecy in chapter 1, verse 3. Blessed is the one who reads aloud the words of this prophecy. And again in chapter 22, do not seal up the words of the prophecy of this scroll or this book. When you think of prophecy, you might think of prediction, predicting the future, and that's certainly part of it. But prophecy is perhaps even more proclamation. It is the speaking forth of God's truth to the present situation. If you want to understand proclamation or prediction, if you want to understand prophecy, you need to consider what happened with the Old Testament prophets, because much of what John says is drawn from the Old Testament prophets. And understanding the Old Testament prophets will give you a tremendous background for understanding what John is trying to do as a prophecy. Revelation is also a prophetic apocalyptic book. The word apocalypse simply means to unveil, the revelation or unveiling of Jesus Christ or from Jesus Christ. Apocalyptic writing was popular at this time, and it featured a heavenly messenger who would reveal God's promise to intervene in world history in order to defeat evil and bring about his will. The chief characteristics of apocalyptic focus on its really odd use of images, bizarre images. Now we know what many of these images are, but it's how they're combined that makes Revelation so odd and so strange and so foreign to us. We know about a woman and we know about hills, but we don't know about a woman who sits on 7 hills. We know about locusts, we know about scorpions, but we're not really sure about a locust with a scorpion's tail and a human head. We of course, know about a beast, and we know about heads, but we're not sure about a beast with many heads. So it's how these are combined that presents a unique challenge for us. We would encourage you to think of Revelation as picture language. Revelation uses language to speak to us in images and pictures. And if you can think of Revelation as picture language, it will help you tremendously as you begin to interpret the book. What is the purpose of the book of Revelation? Well, Revelation creates what you might call a symbolic world, a picture language world. And you might consider a flight simulator or virtual reality glasses. As you enter into this other world, you begin to see evil for what it really is. You begin to see God's power for what it really is. You see, in your regular everyday world, if you lived in the first century, Rome would appear to be this grand empire, all powerful, in control of everything. the great empire. But as you enter into the symbolic world of Revelation, Rome is portrayed as a harlot, a prostitute, and some would say as a beast, an awful beast. So as you enter into this world, you begin to see what's really real. You begin to see things from God's perspective. You have a heavenly perspective on what's happening. Then you take off the glasses or step out of the simulator and you enter into your world. You re-enter your world, and now you can live faithfully because you know what's real. You can stand strong for Christ because you know that evil will not win and God will win. You see, during tough times, it's very difficult to believe that God is still in control. If you've had the opportunity to talk with Christians around the world today who are being persecuted, it's sometimes difficult for them to realize and to know and to believe that God is still in control when it seems like the powers of this world are actually in control. But the symbolic world of Revelation, the picture language world, helps us see that God will win. His victory is certain. It has been assured to us in Jesus Christ. The future is in God's hands. Revelation essentially answers the question, who is Lord? Is Caesar Lord or is Jesus Lord? Revelation's answer is Jesus is Lord, and God is in the process of defeating evil, and that climactic event occurred at the cross and resurrection. But he will continue his plan to defeat evil, to rescue his people, and to redeem his creation.